Top story this week. The nuclear war isn't happening yet. Well, exciting news for the world, which is breathing very slightly more easily, for a bit at least, after an exchange of fire between India and Pakistan, which followed an attack on Indian soldiers in April, which threatened to give the world another live talking point to add to its conversation, which currently encompasses everything from who is better, Lamine Yamal or Taylor Swift. Are unboxing videos on YouTube a sign that humanity has basically given up? And are worms baby snakes? To which we were about to add, would Wimbledon still happen after a global nuclear war has reduced the planet to radioactive dust? But fortunately, after a conclave of concerned nations asked India and Pakistan nicely if they wouldn't mind awfully not catapulting the world into full-blown World War III, rather than the simmering is it, isn't it World War III state we're all enjoying right now, a peace deal was hacked out and everyone lived happily ever after, apart from for a few incidents, and ever is currently 2 days long. So, Nish, I know you're... you've generally come out against nuclear war as a means of solving humanity's problems. Where do you stand on this particular one?
Well, that was back in my wokest days, Andy. And now I'm pro-war and against DEI. I don't even know what it stands for, but I'm against it. And I won't be looking it up because that's exactly what the leftists want. Yes, India and Pakistan flirted with, without having full penetrative sex with, the idea of total nuclear annihilation of each other. A terrorist attack which happened in Kashmir last month appeared to have escalated tensions in the region. India then began a sort of military response. Pakistan then hit back. And now, over the weekend, US representatives and UK representatives have both claimed partial credit or responsibility for averting the strike. I will say that for the US and the UK, given some of the events at the early part of this century, telling a nation to not respond to a terrorist attack by starting a full war has an element of pot kettle black in this situation. It has an absolute element of pot kettle black. If anything, the US and UK representatives should have said, listen, all that awaits you if you do this is death, misery, and a rehabilitation as a fun uncle who does paintings, or, in the case of the UK representatives involved in starting the war, a lucrative career in podcasting. If I may draw attention to the career of Alistair Campbell post helping start the Iraq.
I thought you were talking about me.
No, Zaltzman, you're on the reverse Campbell trajectory. You've started with podcasting, and then eventually you two will help create the conditions for a massively ill-advised and incredibly catastrophic war in the Middle East. You're on the reverse trajectory.
Andy Zaltzman, the rest is bullshit.
Listen, just because India and Pakistan aren't going to war doesn't mean we can't go to war with other podcasters. One of the kind of unusual sub-stories that developed within this overall story is that airlines, it turns out, have been working tirelessly in the background since the start of the Ukraine war and also with the escalation of this war to ensure that planes will keep flying even after the outbreak of nuclear war. And I know that everybody's primary concern with nuclear war is, will I still be able to go on my summer holidays? And I have fantastic news for you. The insurance industry, that tireless organisation devoted to human justice and peace, has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that commercial jets will still be able to be insured so that they can fly in the event of a nuclear war. Gallagher, the world's largest aviation insurance broker, have been working on the scheme since Putin threatened to deploy Russian nuclear weapons against Ukraine back in 2022. Nigel Wayman, who's a senior partner at Gallagher and also has the absolute perfect possible name for his job of absolutely benign unpleasantness. He said that back when the wording was drawn up, it was assumed that any hostile detonation meant that it would all be over, Armageddon. But what they didn't have in those days was tactical nuclear weapons that vary in size and in impact, and which ultimately are very usable. And I don't think we focused enough on how very, very incredibly usable the new brand of nuclear weapons are. Those old nuclear weapons, they were a blunt instrument. These new tactical nukes are the weaponry equivalent of the Tampax Compact. That is an incredibly usable tampon that is discreet, it's precise, and crucially, it gets the job done.
Could you test that yourself, Nish?
I have done some Googling, Andrew.
Oh, right, okay.
I've done some Googling. I like to keep the algorithm guessing, and the 25 minutes or so I spent this morning Googling small tampons is almost certainly going to have created some level of confusion over at Google.
In terms of usability, I mean, this is very exciting. If you basically, that's the language of the mass market, and if we get to the point where everyone has their own usable nuclear weapon for simple household tasks like clearing flower beds before planting some new herbs or tidying your kids' bedrooms, then will the world not be a happier place? Tom, you come at this story with the cool objectivity of someone who lives in the southern hemisphere and must look upon the what's been going on in the northern hemisphere over the last few thousand years with an element of confusion and disdain. What's your take on the situation?
Well, I'm just very impressed that Donald Trump has managed to calm everybody down. I think it's a real breakthrough. He said there'll be a full and immediate end to hostilities after a long night of talks mediated by the United States. Now, no offense, India and Pakistan, but you know things are bad when your conflict is being mediated by Donald Trump's America.
Yeah.
If you have to call in representatives of Donald Trump to be the voice of reason and tell everybody to calm down, your shit's fucked up, yo. I just don't think the Yanks are the first guys I think of when I think of like de-escalation. In fact, in terms of things that make extremely delicate situations worse, I'd say the US is up there with ISIS, the Incredible Hulk, and methamphetamines. Full credit to him. He does seem to have secured a ceasefire for now, and I think we're all excited to see what his peace plan for Kashmir looks like, especially as it may require him to know where the Kashmir is. If he can narrow it down to the correct hemisphere, I will be very impressed. This is a man who gave a speech in 2020 in which he referred to Thailand as Thailand. Thailand, Andy. Yeah. Thailand. You know Thailand. It's near Singapore and Cambodia. Thailand.
He also referred to Mattel, the toy company, as a country this week as well. So it does suggest that his geopolitical radar is... as you say, still in need of, let's be charitable about this, a little bit of fine-tuning. As always after the exchange of fire, well, truth was not so much the first casualty of war as the first thing blindfolded, plopped down a disused mineshaft and covered in fast-setting concrete before war has even started. And there was an instant reaction in the inevitable way of the 21st century of a wave of online misinformation and people posting footage of completely separate events and sharing the sort of wild conspiracy theories that are almost like punctuation in the modern world. Truth is also the first casualty of a ceasefire, and as well as war. And as you say, the various players was scrambling to take credit for the deal, including the USA, Saudi Arabia, Iran, around about 30 other nations, including the UK, and above all, cricket fans, because. To me, the reason that ceasefire happened so quickly was the fact that both the Pakistan Super League and the Indian Premier League, two of the world's leading T20 cricket leagues, were suspended due to the outbreak of hostilities. And I think gazing into that light of truth of what was at stake, I think made peace spontaneously erupt.
I will say, Andy, it was a very difficult week to refute a lot of your allegations that cricket is more important than anything else in life, because the timing of this was suboptimal. If the point you're trying to make is not, it was all about cricket, because the IPL, the Indian Premier League, was suspended at the start of this conflict, and it seems that the threat of a suspension of cricket has caused India and Pakistan to suspend their hostilities. And it just shows you that with Vladimir Putin and Russia, they have been suspended from Football World Cup competitions, but that has not slowed them down. What does this tell you about India and Pakistan? They are simply morally better than Russia. Because they were willing ultimately to recognise that people care more about sport than anything else. And if Putin had a scent of humanity in his body, he would have understood that the second that it turned out Russia weren't going to be able to compete in the Football World Cup, that he would have stopped everything.
Well, I mean, famously, George Orwell said that sport is war minus the shooting, which I think means if you flip the equation round mathematically, peace is war divided by sport squared over 2, if I've done the maths right, but I'm not entirely sure. Bit rough.
I'll give you this, Andy. Yeah, Buglers will know I'm no fan of the sport of cricket. If the results of cricket decided international border disputes, I would watch cricket, okay? Like, I don't know what you win at the moment. You win like a cup and some sandwiches or something. But if India played Pakistan and the winner gets Kashmir, then there are some stakes on board and I'm tuning in, okay?
Yeah. Although based on the results the last couple of years, Kashmir would currently be under the control of Australia.
So international players and broadcasters were flown out of Pakistan on a special military flight. Then the IPL, which had been suspended, has now been desuspended, and they're going to try and restart it later this week. Now, I don't know if that gave them time to get the unscheduled gap in the tournament sponsored, like every other gap in the IPL. But it could be an opportunity for the Bugle. Currently, our foray into sports sponsorship is the board in the goal at the Streatham Redhawks ice hockey that they put up for people to try and do the shoot a puck from the halfway line into the goal through a little slot at the bottom to win a prize. And in the corner is a Bugle logo. But that's as far as we've got. But I'm quite keen to try and sponsor the suspension of the IPL. You know, the Bugle podcast, Geopolitical Precipice of Armageddon, take it to the brink break. I think that's, that is an opportunity for us. I don't know what they want for that. I imagine travel agents are queuing up once the IPL restarts. Here's Josh Butler, fresh from his Globe Strider Insta Holidays nuclear emergency micro vacation. Taking flight with Globe Strider, with destinations ranging from Saint-Tropez to absolutely anywhere that isn't a potential imminent war zone.